Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. And shortly we'll be joined by Joyce Lanyo, Country Director, International Child Development Program. She is our guest, but let me tell you a bit about those who support us to bring you this segment. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Now, they're offering free prostate screening if you're a man, free fertility screening if you're a woman, and all of us, many of us are walking around with so many things, especially, men. You never check your prostate. You never conduct a PSA. You never check so many other things. And before you realize it, you find yourself in a very tricky situation. So many women nowadays, you don't know about your fertility, checking for fibroids and all of that. Before you realize, boom, you're in a tricky spot. How about you make tracks to Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic? You can get these resolved. And here's where you can find them dotted across the country. Here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronum Abuehia, behind the Angel Educational Complex. In Takrady, Anaji Estate. In Tema, Community 22. In Techiman Hanswa and Esiama and Zema. If you'd like to call them, and I proffer that you do, the numbers to call 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But only the start of the news review segment. Madam Joyce Lanyo joins the conversation. A very good morning to you. Can you hear me, Joyce? I am wondering whether you've still not unmuted. You may have to unmute. Okay, so I think you may have unmuted, but there may be a technical glitch. So we'll try to work that out and then get back to you, please. Joyce Lanyo, of course, joining us for the news review. She is Country Director, International Child Development Program, and she is our guest. But there are so many things that have happened over the last few days between yesterday and today. Some of them I'll transcend or get into blunt thoughts for tomorrow, but I'll keep those cards to my chest for now. There's also talk about inflation, which has fallen 4 months in a row. And of course, that is good. But what is the reality of the impact this is having? The other day, I believe it was Monday, I hosted right here Bridget Jogbanuku, former flag bearer of the Progressive People's Party. And she had her take on the matter that, yes, we're being told that inflation was dropping, but no, the reality was on the market was no different. In any case, all of us have to strategize because your personal inflation will be very different from someone else's. It depends on the choices you make, the purchases you make, what products you're buying, are they imported, and all of that. That will translate into the cost you have to bear. So I guess all of us have to tighten our belts even further as far as the inflationary battle is concerned. Fuel prices are not down as much as I would want them to, nowhere near that. I mean, they're still hovering around 13 cedis. That is still quite a bit to do. Today, I have to purchase fuel. Today, I have to do that. And it's always a pain having to go to the fuel pump. But it is what it is. Anyway, we'll get into the stack of papers we have here. And then when we can hear from Joyce Lanyo, we shall have her give her say on some of the matters we're going to be discussing. So we'll start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. 14 institutions fined 1.3 million Ghana cedis for non-compliance with RTI law. And there have been public institutions, ministries, among others, that we have reached out to, even from here, in RTI-related matters, who have had to be forced to basically give information. So if that is going to be the case, why do we even have the law? If it's going to be useless, toothless in in respect of the information that is sought. So it's a good move. It's a good signal that is being sent. But we all know, Mr. Oponkroma, you know fully well that your work is cut out for you in this respect. At least you are not directly in charge, but in this regard. So let's ensure that that happens. Joyce Lanyo is back. Can you hear me now? Have you unmuted, Joyce?
Yes, please.
Great, I can hear you
my
now.
microphone is buzzing with the green light, so I believe.
Right. I can indeed hear you now. Good to have you. It's been a while. So a number of things have happened since we last spoke. Just over the period of a week, in the space of a week, 4 buildings have crumbled to the ground. Poor, whether it's building material or architecture or whatever, or engineering, these buildings have come crashing to the ground. The last one at this church facility in Old Botiano led to 7 of the construction workers getting injured, one of them severely injured, sent to the Kolibu Teaching Hospital. There's also this bit about inflation, which has fallen 4 months in a row. I don't know whether you have anything to say about those very quickly. So we start with the newspapers.
Thank you very much, and good morning to viewers. And it's been a while, Ben, but I thank you for the opportunity to make an input into today's news. Speaking about the collapsing of the building, it's really worrying. I mean, there are standards that engineers, architects will have to follow to give the support for buildings to come up. And I believe there are certain standards that we have to follow.
Right.
And then the quality of the materials that are being used in terms of the iron rods, the cements, and all that will also have to be have to meet the standards. But it's very worrying that the last, I don't know, I think 7 days or so, a week, 4 buildings, including a government university, being collapsing in that manner. And I wonder what is happening, whether we have forgotten to go through those standards that you have to design for approval, or probably the cement that is being manufactured is of lower quality. It's really, really worrying. And I am not an engineer though, but I would like to plead with authorities who will have to approve buildings. I know, especially story buildings, you have to go through a lot of processes, the fire situation, the ground, they'll have to test the ground and see the soil, how it can accommodate the building, and any other structural strategies that will have to be put in place. But for buildings to be collapsing in this manner is very, very worrying. And I wonder whether all those owners of these buildings, including that of the UDS University, had really gone through the minimum standards, the structural agreements, and whatever it takes to put up a building, actually went through the process. Otherwise, we are heading towards doom. I remember some years back when the Melcom building collapsed and the hell we had to go through. Even experts had to travel from outside the country to come and support in clearing. We were witnesses of the Turkish buildings that collapsed. I'm not here to remind people of the pain, where our late brother, footballer Christian Achu, was part. It's really, really an issue, and I think government should take the matter up and investigate what led to the key institutions that can help the NADMO, the engineers, so that any building of that nature would have to go through the minimum standard to be certified to begin. And whatever it is that they are using, whether the cement, I learned we have cement for plastering and then we have cement for concrete.
Yeah.
So people are mixing these two categories of cements, and probably that is affecting the building in such a way that at a point in time it becomes weakened and will have to collapse. It's worrying, it's scary, and I plead with government authorities, those who will have to approve buildings, to actually put their acts together and get things done before we head towards a disaster that will affect all of us. Thank God the casualties were injuries. I'm not sure whether there were deaths in these four buildings that collapsed. Even that, we have to be serious with everything we are doing when it comes to putting up a building, so that people will go through the process and get satisfied, get qualified engineers to actually come on board to support these buildings. Now, when it comes to the market and the inflationary matters, I mean, my sister Bridget has stated it all. We learned economics when we were in school, that few goods chasing money or some the inflationary trend, the common trend that we used to say.
Right.
But brother, that the prices increase by minutes, or probably when the market women see your face and they notice that probably you have what it takes to pay more, they add a bit more. So
I
it keeps
hear I
changing.
hear there's something now, especially if you're a man. You know, we men, when we go to the market, sometimes the women try to get their way with us. They don't know some of us. We too, we have our own skills. But if you want to go to the market, one of the things you must do now is dress down. If you go dressed like I am this morning, they are going to hit you with prices that reflect for them, you know, your dressing. So that's one thing that I took stock of recently. Do go ahead.
Yes. I mean, it's true. It's really, really true. The market woman will look at you, size you, and determine the economic class within which you fall and quote the price. And these prices are non-negotiable. I was very good in negotiating prices, but now I'm not able. When they say it's done, and you just have to pay. And you know,
Yeah.
you cannot. My in-law would say, "Akpe shika," you cannot chew the money, so you are compelled to buy. So prices does not reflect the inflationary trend we are being told. And I don't know the mechanism they can use to support in standardizing prices, so that the common Ghanaian will feel some form of relief,
Are you calling for
especially.
price regulation? Because we tried control price, you remember,
I
sometime
remember.
in the 80s or so. Look at how that turned out. Plus, our market economy is akin to what we see in some Western countries, where there is that free flow. You allow private enterprise to lead the charge. Governments, the central bank, will have its own manipulation or regulation of the system. But basically, it is run by, you know, a free market. So isn't that a very slippery slope to go down when it comes to price regulation?
I remember price control those days, and truth to be told, that was around the military regime.
Yeah.
And so it was fraught with a lot of abuse, violence, and all that. I am not an economist, but if there could be a regulation, price regulation, that will be clear to citizenry, that citizenry will appreciate and understand. And I think the importation of goods is also contributing to this kind of price increases here and there.
Right.
If there could be a way of bringing this regulation that will be appreciated by all and sundry within the market circles, the sales circles, I think it will be good for all of us. But the women are always complaining of the prices for transporting goods from the rural communities to the cities, and it's not an easy task. So it's worrying. It's, in fact, we are suffering, and something should be done about prices. Talking about inflation, those are, in my mind or in my simple ways, they are paperwork. It doesn't reflect in our pockets, so that we will feel the relief we are talking about.
based on a basket of items. They have specific places they go to every month. At the start of the month, they go there, they engage these people, know the prices, and it's a whole basket of items. So they have non-food, food, and all of that. And they put them together. There are those who have questioned it. There is this professor in the United States who has questioned our inflationary dynamic over time. But some would also tell you that there are different metrics that are used. And the Ghana Statistical Service does a broader assessment. So how does that wash off on you?
You know, sometimes when they churn out the figures, you are asking where they had the data from. And in my mind, as you know, a Ghanaian, as a citizen who is part of the economic activities in the system, if statistical services comes out with certain data that indicates that, look, the price regime and then the inflationary trend is this or that, it's entirely up to government to come out with a policy. If it is telling on the individuals to find a strategy to mitigate some of these things that statistical service might be talking about,
Right.
so that we will feel the comfort of whatever it is that we are talking about. But anytime, even now, the market women are looking at the inflationary trends. So when you go and then you are talking about price, they say, madam, they say dollar no cobium. The dollar is rising at a very fast pace. And then they take their price regimes from those simple and flawed analysis to quote prices. So government will have to be upbeat and find a way of mitigating or helping citizenry to be able to cope with the system. There's so much indiscriminate price regimes. You go here, cement is this, the next shop is that, either high or too high. You cannot buy, you are negotiating, and then you are compelled to buy the inferior quality that will lead to crisis in the near future. So there's a gamut of issues around these price regimes and the inflationary trend. And I believe the experts know how we can go about these challenges to regulate the price regime so that we will be comfortable to a large extent. Thank you.
On that note, let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper now. And the headlines there, I started with this one earlier. 14 institutions fined 1.3 million Ghana cedis for non-compliance with RTI law. I know you'd have a brief take on that. Agric offers prospects for employment, prosperity. That's the Graphic MD lauding Ms. Agriculture Ghana initiative. Graphic Lands Ministry dialogue today, law enforcement tops agenda. President swears in Vaccine Institute Board inaugurates office. AG launches Public Defenders Division of Legal Aid. Add value to natural resources. And then that is a graphic initiative. And then EC stays off NDC elections. Now, I think we should start from the banner headline. Retaining the minerals value chain, ensuring stricter enforcement of laws to tackle illegal activities in the mining and forest sectors, as well as eliminating barriers to effective land administration, will take center stage as policymakers and stakeholders gather in Accra today for the maiden dialogue on natural resource management. As stakeholders converge on Kempinski Gold Coast Hotel for the dialogue between that is being organized by Graphic Communications Group Limited in partnership with the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, the stakes are high as they expect an honest post-mortem of the country's natural resource conundrum and proper solutions for the sustainable management of resources. The President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is the guest of honor for the dialogue. Let's now go to page 13 and look at the stories there as well. So 14 public institutions have been slapped with a total of 1,310,000 penalty for refusing to comply with the Right to Information Commission's orders to grant applicants access to information requested. The institutions form part of 26 review applications determined by the Commission since its operationalization in 2020. The Minister of Information, Kojo Nkrumah, who disclosed this when he took his turn at the Meet the Press series in Accra yesterday, cited limited cooperation from public institutions as one of the challenges affecting the implementation of the RTI law, which depicts the number of compliance exercises conducted by the Commission. The press briefing was to highlight the success stories, challenges, and the way forward for the RTI Commission, while offering journalists the opportunity of asking questions. So 1.3 million from there. There's also this story. I just want to get all of them so we can pick them apart. The Electoral Commission will not supervise Saturday's presidential and parliamentary primaries of the National Democratic Congress until all legal issues associated with it are resolved. The chairperson of the EC, Jean Mensah, made known the decision of the commission at a meeting with the NDC yesterday. And it said, quote, "In order that we are not cited for contempt, the Commission has taken the decision not to supervise the conduct of the presidential and parliamentary elections until after the determination of the case by the court," she said. I listened to Abraham Amalba, Director of Legal Affairs at the NDC, and he said, well, he understood why the EC would adopt or take this decision, of course, since they had been served themselves and in order not to be in contempt of court. But the issue is going to be looked into by the court come tomorrow, and depending on what the decision is, I guess the EC would either go ahead to conduct it on Saturday or not, based on the decision of the court. So we have here law enforcement, the Graphic Lands Ministry dialogue. Today, the president will be there, but crucial there are land and natural resources. And for me, I think we're gradually losing the plot. We are destroying our environment in crazy ways. There's also the other stories I've read, NDC elections in limbo, and the other one on page 13, RTI law and non-compliance. What is your take, Joyce?
Thank you very much, Ben. And my take, or what I would say concerning the RTI law, because I work within the civil society space, and information is very important to inform decision, to inform policy, and all that. But it has become very, very difficult for government officials to actually release information for these purposes that I just mentioned. Meanwhile, we have fought and advocated for this law to be passed. And the law being passed enjoins all public officials or government agencies to release information needed to inform certain decisions, to address certain positions, to do advocacy for the citizenry to appreciate what exactly. But still, our public officials find it very challenging to share information with us. And so the procedure, you send your letter and they'll ask you to go and come. You send emails, it bounces back, it doesn't go at all. You go again, maybe the third time, they will tell you, oh, the officer to sign the letter is not around, and back and forth back. African Education Watch had to send an organization, which I will not mention the name, to court for some of these things, and they were charged. So I believe if these institutions are made to pay for some of these lapses within the information sharing agenda,
right,
they would sit. And I think there should be an awareness creation. When policies are passed, laws are passed, there should be a level of sensitization, NCCE, for the citizenry to appreciate that this is where we are. And if you refuse to share information, that's against the law.
Right.
Yeah. And the electoral processes, yeah, I just want to do a snap one on that. I mean, the universal adult suffrage enjoins citizenry, regardless of race, color, to vote. And if there are issues with the voting system, that same instrument enjoins us to raise the red flag for the issues to be addressed. It's unfortunate that it's a last minute red flag which the EC has decided to withdraw, which puts the whole process into jeopardy. So we will be praying and hoping that the courts will support in addressing these issues as early as possible, so that our counterparts will go ahead and run their election, and so that we get the leaders that we need for the next big election that is ahead of us.
I will
Otherwise, PC is saying he's not participating, and I think I agree with them because a red
exactly
flag has
right.
been blown. A whistleblower has come up with something. Yeah.
So let's look at, just for your reading, for those of you watching us, if you turn to page 28, there is a story there on education. In fact, it is titled Tackling Infrastructure Deficits in Colleges of Education. The writer is an editor and a teacher himself, and it talks about the significant infrastructure deficits in almost all the colleges of education in Ghana. Pictured there, you would actually see, look at that at the bottom. That is the Bagabaga College of Education, a 400-bed capacity hostel, which has been abandoned in Bagabaga. So just think of it. That is the situation there. And if you look at it, remarkably though, government has spent a total of 432,680,456 Ghana cedis from 2017 to 2020 on payment of trainee teachers' allowance. Is it worth spending such huge amounts of money on allowances at the expense of other pertinent challenges faced by the colleges? That is a question the author, Larry Agbado, poses. That was just a quick one by the by. Let's get into the Daily Guide newspaper. Maybe if you have a comment on that, you can rope it into what I'll be taking from the Daily Guide. Nana Swezen Vaccine Institute Board. For me, I'm still unfazed by all of this because I say until I see real action on the ground beyond the talk, that is what I want to see. Atuesian runs from jail, pays 4 million Ghana cedis. This entire Atuesian situation, I knew it would likely come to this, and the entire arrangement with the Attorney General and the allowance of this. But anyway, it is what it is. We've come to this point, and we'll see what happens. EC pulls out of NDC polls. We've already touched on that. NDC registers males as females for elections, and that is a story there in the Daily Guide. It's on page 3. Of course, there have been some issues with the process, and they are clarifying some of those. But trust the Daily Guide to bring up such issues. AFTA exports Ghanaian businesses to Kenya, and those are the stories in the Daily Guide newspaper. I'll just do the one on page 6 about this vaccine board. And President Akufo-Addo yesterday gave meaning to his commitment to establish a vaccine manufacturing plant in Ghana. This was when he inaugurated a 13-member governing board to oversee the activities and operations of the National Vaccine Institute and proceeded to commission a brand new ultra-modern complex for the institute in Accra with a charge to work hard to make Ghana the vaccine hub of the African continent. Well, like I said, commissioning, board, facility, the work is cut out for them. Let's see them do it. And let's see them make Ghana, in fact, the vaccine hub of the African continent. Then we'll have something to celebrate. Your quick thoughts.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I agree with you with the inauguration of the National Vaccine Board, and all the flamboyance and the pomp around it. We want to see it happen live, and then we can give our comments and jubilate about it. But for now, it's something that we are praying and hoping it comes to pass. Otherwise, there's been a lot of lunch and all those things, but we do not see the job in reality on the ground. So
right.
If you ask me, I share the same thoughts with you. Once it's on the ground, then yes, we will talk about it and then jubilate about it.
Right.
And yeah.
Were you going to say something on the Bagabaga College of Education? I didn't know.
The only thing I will say is uncap the GET fund so that we will be able to get the resources to do what we have to do. It's unfortunate that these teachers who are being trained to come take over the classrooms and impact the skills that children will need to achieve whatever they want to achieve. These teachers themselves are crying wolf. So my only message, uncap the GET fund. We are still working in the background to present petitions again to government.
Right.
So what I would say, if you uncap, there will be resources to take off educational infrastructure so that our teachers and our teacher trainees will feel comfortable.
Let's do these two stories and cap off the conversation. So business find a SNIT to enroll 750,000 self-employed for regular income during old age until death. And there's also the business analyst, Treasury bill rates to remain high despite ease in inflation. Let me start with the Business Finder newspaper. That story on page 2. So the Social Security and National Insurance Trust has launched an ambitious program to sign up 750,000 self-employed workers onto the scheme. This number will be made up of 500,000 newly enrolled and the reactivation of 250,000 dormant contributors. Now, we know we have a working population of 9.9 million according to the 2021 Population and Housing Census. Out of that, 6.7 million are self-employed, 600,000 of the self-employed have some form of social security cover. And we know that 90% of the self-employed do not have any form of social security cover. And of course, that is a worry. But if you look at the other story in the Business Analyst, Treasury bill rates to remain high despite ease in inflation. Treasury bill yields are expected to remain higher despite an ease in inflation. This is due to a sizable need for funds amidst relatively tighter liquidity conditions influence pricing behavior. Interest rates have fallen by 15.11% since January 2023, the sharpest decline in sub-Saharan Africa in 2023. Quick reactions. We have a minute and then we have to go. Joyce?
Thank you, Ben. I think the SNIT enrolling the 750,000 self-employed people is long overdue. It's long overdue. Look, we've been paying tax since we started working till date. A chunk of Ghanaians, you mentioned that the 90% do not have, it's very, very, very alarming.
So 90% of those who are self-employed?
Yes. Those who are self-employed are not rolled onto the SNIT scheme. And we, the few of us, have paid so much to get the infrastructure, to get government agenda going, to all the services that we are enjoying, our tax are included. What about this percentage of people walking around?
Right.
And yet we go on pension, the little we get to invest, government takes over and it's not listening to us. This is long overdue, and I think SNIT should even widen the net to encapsulate all others to pay tax. Tax is run to make all developmental projects possible. Other countries pride whatever they have achieved on the tax system. So SNIT is long overdue, and we'll be grateful if you are able to even rope in more of the self-employed citizenry to be able to rake in some resources to support the development process in the country.
Well, of course, our pension system has been fraught with challenges, so that will aid them. And of course, yes, that would also contribute to our state's kitty. Any final comments? I noticed you were about to add something.
Well, I'm very excited I'm back today and to actually contribute to the discussions on national discourse. I'm grateful for the opportunity, but I'm praying that the NDC court actions will clear the way for the elections to take place. Thank you very much. And
we'll see how that pans out ahead of tomorrow. Well, tomorrow in court ahead of Saturday. Joyce Lanyo, thank you so much for joining us this morning. She is Country Director, International Child Development Program, and she joined us for a conversation. Of course, this segment, right before we get into sports, brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening as well. Locate them in Accra Spentex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi Krono Mabwe behind the Angel Educational Complex. Takrady Anaji State, Tema Community 22, the Stichiman Hanswa and Siama Nzima. You can reach them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. And more coming your way in sports. The LA Lakers losing to the Golden State Warriors. The Lakers still lead by 3-2. We'll see how the next round pans out. But sports up next.